welcome to the return of the UConn Daily Show. This is Aman joined by John Silver, back for season 2 after our pilot season last year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our semi-regular talks about all things UConn sports. That's the plan here. We're going to discuss UConn football, basketball, hockey, maybe some soccer if it comes up. We'll cover all of it. Today we're going to talk about football. The Huskies have a new head football coach. They also just got the assignment for their bowl game. The Huskies' third bowl appearance in 4 years, second in a row. All very exciting stuff, John. We'll start with the coach. The Huskies announced Jason Candle from Toledo hired as the next head coach. Very successful run over there with the Rockets. One of the best programs in the MAC. Seems like also one of the best recruiting programs in the MAC. What do you think about the hire?
I think it's looking at it from what UConn has done and what's been expected. So if we look at the last several hires, right? Paul Pasqualoni and Jim Moore were retreads. Randy Edsall 2.0 was the ultimate retread. You went and got an old coach that worked, which never works. Like look at even Mac Brown at North Carolina, Schnellenberg, Oklahoma. It never works. And then they got Diaco, who was an assistant. Okay, so what does that tell you about the job? It's a place for people to make their name, or it's a place for people to do like Jim Mora did, is rebuild their name, is what their hope is. They didn't do this time, and I think it when you lose your coach to Colorado State, which not to offend Colorado State fans, but that is not a program that UConn would expect to lose its coach to. Other reasons go in there, lifestyle reasons. He likes to be out west, access to the college football playoff, which we can always talk about down the road. But then they went out and got a guy who wins at a place that's might be harder to than UConn, that has less resources than UConn. And UConn plays a little better schedule than a MAC schedule, but the MAC plays good football. Like it's not a bad football league. Like every now and then you get really good teams out of the MAC, and Toledo's been consistent. 81-44 over 10 years. That's 8 wins a year. You do that at UConn, we're going to build a statue for you. So I like it. So he's 46, which is younger than me, but he's a veteran coach. And, I think he knows what he's getting into here. I'm sure they must have promised more resources and more recruiting. And, UConn right now does not have access to the college football playoff. So they're not looking to compete with the top 10 teams in the country. They're looking to break the top 25, 10-win years, do like what they did this year, maybe not lose 3 overtime games. I think this guy could do it. He's a proven coach. He probably wants to move on to a bigger job. Give him a 4-year run. If he wins 9 games a year for 4 years, he's going to get a big job somewhere. And UConn should try to do that for him and not try to be like, okay, we can't lose our coach to a Power 4 team. You know what? It's okay. Like if a player comes in and they transfer, celebrate it. Look at what we did here, because that allows the next great coach and the next player who's looking for PT and an opportunity to come here. So I think UConn's on the right track here. They think this guy can elevate them. I think he's a proven coach, which I think they needed. They can't take a risk on an assistant or a first-time head coach. And I think he knows how to win with less resources. And let's say, like, UConn's schedule, they have some name brands on there, but they also have some, as we've seen this year, some teams that they should beat. So, they're not playing a gauntlet road either. So it might be a little better than a normal MAC schedule, but I think this guy has the formula to win at this level and with the schedule they have, and hopefully elevate them into maybe a top 30 ranking if possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good rosy view.
Yeah, well, it is a good hire. It's a really good hire, like you said.
Yeah.
Past hires had much less going on background-wise. Randy Mitchell was an analyst in the Lions before he was hired at UConn. Jim Moore was out of coaching for 6 years, and he was coaching across the country in that last job, right? These were all very tough fits because UConn was not in a very good position, didn't have a great reputation brewing. People thought, what's even the plan, right? They go independent in football, who knows? 4 years later, the situation's much different. And even though in that situation, many people are saying, okay, UConn still maybe got to look for an FCS coach right? Maybe look at some of
Yeah.
these guys at a lower level who really, really want to come up, and that it might be tough to get a sitting FBS coach. But there are so many benefits to having that sitting FBS coach, understanding
Really is.
NIL, understanding the portal, having a group of guys from your recruiting class and your previous team that can transfer over to UConn and provide immediate skill and depth
Mm-hmm.
that you need. All of that is really, really huge. I think, for Candle, he doubled his pay. He's got a bigger NIL budget. The conference thing is interesting, right? Because it's maybe less of a clear path to the playoff. The MAC, you're right, quality football.
Mm-hmm.
The MAC winner does not go to the playoff, right? That's not the
No.
guarantee. You can go maybe undefeated and have a case, but even then there might be an American
Mm-hmm.
team, uh, or James Madison, that is ahead of you in the rankings still. But just going back to Candle and his track record, he's also done really well in the portal era. So
Mm-hmm.
some years Toledo has been, closer to 500, but in the last 4 years they've won 8+ games each of those seasons, 11 wins 2 seasons ago. He's got an offensive background, which I think is also important.
Mm-hmm.
And on the recruiting front, I mean, not Ohio, but Western Pennsylvania, Western New York have been really key regions, which are right nearby, for someone like him. I think it's going to be a really interesting boost for UConn's high school recruiting, which is definitely something that you need as you're graduating as a program into wanting to be decent on a consistent basis. You have to find more pipelines for more guys. With
Yes.
Diaco, it was the hope that he could make New Jersey, really work because of his roots there. And with Edsel, right, it was that he knew this area, right? He knew the UConn
Mm-hmm.
job and recruiting it, obviously. So Mora took a little bit of a back burner approach to high school recruiting, and I think
Yeah.
Candle will take more of a robust approach to that. It's still really important. And yeah, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think on the point of, Candle's in his mid 40s, he probably does not want to stay at UConn forever. And maybe historically, whenever you hire your next head coach, you kind of want to be hiring the forever coach. That's what
Yeah.
you hope and think.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, the world is different. And if, we can all just be adults about the fact that Jason Candle maybe doesn't want to be at UConn forever. Weird thing to say as he's about to be introduced.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we can't worry about every single thing. And there's so many boxes he checks, so much great experience that he brings. I think this is all really good stuff. On the resources point, that is actually where the one knock on him has come up, which is that
Mm-hmm.
Toledo is actually within the MAC considered to
Oh,
be one of the
back. Yeah.
highest resource programs within the MAC. So the expectations for Toledo and its fans was that they would be kind of number one or two every year. And
Mm-hmm.
that has not so much materialized. Someone else pointed out they've lost a lot as a favorite. I think something like 17, 18 losses as a one touchdown favorite. That is gambling stuff, man. That is not football analysis. I am not putting much stock into that. That is putting, and gambling is, or whatever. The lines of a game are interesting to think about what expectations are, but we don't have to act like that's some damning piece of information. Ultimately, for UConn and its situation, this seems like a really, really good hire. I, again, in this early stage, going to choose to say maybe this is a change of scenery that's going to be good for him as it relates to reaching a ceiling that people want you to reach.
Mm-hmm.
And the support is good at UConn. That's part of it too. Jim Mora
Yeah.
succeeded at UConn in part because of what he did well, but also in part because the NIL investment increased and the institutional support increased. I think the president, the AD, the governor of the state, right? Like all of this is working
Yeah.
to support UConn athletics in a better way. And I think that all plays really well. So
Yeah,
strong
and
hire.
let's look like two things on the losing as 17 games as a touchdown favorite. Okay, guys, he's 81 and 44 overall. So if you want those 17 wins, you want him to be 98 and what is it, 33? I mean, come on. I mean, like, what does he live in Lombardi? I mean, gambling is different. Like, gambling is not expectations. Gambling is Toledo. has a bigger name than some of these teams are playing. We don't know. The MAC is different. The MAC's wild. They play on Tuesday. I mean, let's be honest. It's called Maction for nothing. It's like great football that nobody watches, right? Because if you're bored on a Tuesday night, those games are so much fun. Not a ton of people in the stands for whatever reason. Cold weather, not Ohio State, not Michigan. You know what I mean? Like fan bases are small, but they play good football. There's a lot of players who come out of the MAC into the NFL, so they have good players. You know what I like about UConn, as we talk about this, is averaged over 30,000 fans this year, right? Mac doesn't do that. Uh, they doubled Candle's pay, that's a big thing. That's a big thing for him and his family. Uh, Hopefully the NIL comes with it because, like, why would you have a third? I mean, I don't think people realize how being in a non-power four getting 30,000 people, how impressive that is. Nobody does that, right? Maybe some Mountain West conferences like Boise State or something, but no, programs that are national programs. But I mean, the fan support's growing here. You have to win at UConn. You can't ask people to go and sit in the cold with a 2-9 team that gives up 500 yards. They're not going to come. I'm not going to watch. But one of the things here is I think the Skylar Bell got the Mel Browns, as we see those players who may have been somewhere else and have been part-time players or been languishing on the bench as the number two option. Was Skylar Bell be in a better position for his future if he didn't come to UConn and he stayed at Wisconsin or transferred from Wisconsin to another Big Ten school? Would he be sitting as the Bolitnikoff Award, one or two? I think he should win it. You can make a case for the USC kid, just because of yards per catch and everything, and both of them are very good receivers. I expect Bell to be a second round pick, maybe third round, depends how fast he is when the time comes. But those guys are better. Fagiano is better. He could have. I mean, he's older, but they have offensive linemen have come in. They're either guys are coming in either improving their stock and getting into starting roles or major roles in Power Four, if that's what they want to do with their life, or like Bell, they came here, turned themselves into NFL players. He had a better college experience and career having been at UConn than if he stayed where he was. I think that's a powerful thing, and it's a powerful lesson in the portal era how you maximize what you want to do. Like it's not just you're at the Power Four. How many Power Four guys are those big programs? Kids sit for 4 or 5 years, and then they have to enter the NFL maybe as an undrafted free agent. And woulda, shoulda, coulda. I should have stepped down a level, and I could have dominated. And I think that's the point: is playing time trumps where how big the stadium is and how much money they make. Like, would you rather be a bench player at Alabama or a starting star at UConn? I take the UConn starting star. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I think that's right. The recruiting situation for UConn is a really exciting prospect going forward, and Candle seems like someone really well equipped
Mm-hmm.
to move on that. Moving on, the Huskies also have their bowl assignment for this year. Very exciting stuff. They are returning to the Fenway Bowl. This is a bowl game that normally pits a ACC team against an AAC team. That AAC team is going to be Army, and UConn is playing the spot of the ACC squad, which is
So,
nice. Maybe foreshadowing. Who knows? Maybe something. The Huskies were, of course, in the Fenway Bowl last year, where they beat North Carolina. This year, they're taking on Army, a 6-5 team that they have a 5-4 record against all time. Of course, Army has the triple option that
mhm.
we know and do not love to face, frankly. UConn's lost its last two meetings against Army, including a pretty bad loss in 2021, 52-21,
Oh,
and that was in the Edsel fired year. And then in Mora's first year, they lost to Army 34-17 in West Point. This was a series
mhm.
that made a lot of sense in the past. Both teams were independent. Even when they weren't independent, they were not too far from each other. So they played quite a bit after UConn moved up to FBS. First four times UConn won. Army's now won three of the last four. It's, something to be excited about for UConn. I understand if some fans are not thrilled. I understand if some players on the team are not thrilled to return to Boston for a second
Mhm.
year in a row, right? Maybe you want a little tropical trip, just for the spice of life that variety can bring. But what do you think about UConn in the Fiesta Bowl, December 27th?
Well, it's the Fenway Bowls, not the Fiesta Bowl. But you know what the thing? Yeah, big difference. I wish they were in the Fiesta, but I think people would be happy with that one. But you know, I mean, the UConn's the ACC champs. I think they should go out like Central Florida did a couple years ago and proclaim themselves national champs. UConn football should declare themselves ACC champions for this year. Having they took the bowl spot of the ACC. They're better than the ACC champ Duke. So hey, UCF turned their national championship into a Big 12 bid. Who knows what UConn can do if they claim the mythical ACC championship, because the best team in the ACC clearly isn't Duke or Virginia. It's Miami. But as far as playing Army, I got two thoughts on it. Fenway Bowl, not great experience wise for fans who would have went wherever they were going to go, right? But who cares in my sense? First of all, UConn should always play Army whenever they get a chance. Now, they should be in a league with Army, not the AAC. So I'm not advocating for that back there, but I like the idea of UConn playing Army every year because Army's a lot of fun. It's unusual. It has a brand name. It brings eyeballs, and I think the experience, even with a road game or a bowl game, playing the cadets, having all the pageantry that goes with the military academy football is good for UConn. It really brings Northeast football to the forefront because that is Northeast football's Army. It's and that's what UConn wants to be, the next standard bearer for that. So I like it. We'll get a good. Was this a letdown game from Army because they got the big one coming up this week, right? Army Navy, and then they're going to play in a bowl game. I mean, so I look at it as a trap game for Army. If there is ever such a thing. But the whole season for Army boils down to you having a good record and then playing that game against Navy and firing all missiles. I guess we can say that because they're playing Army. But I like it. What I would have preferred them play a Power Four team, like I was hoping, like a 6-6 Power Four team. But where are you going to play that? The Fenway Bowl pays more. I mean, we can get into that over the next couple of weeks. It's a better spot, and I think it shows that UConn has some brand presence in Boston, right? Like they're like, we'll take UConn. I would have liked to have gone to the Pinstripe Bowl. I think they're trying, but UConn's in New York City a lot these days. So the brand. So I like that UConn seems to be reaching out to Boston, which I'll remind people is Stores North now. I think you'll get a lot of UConn fans live in Massachusetts and know how to get to the Garden. They know how to get to Fenway. I mean, it's a day trip for people, so it'll be cheaper. I'm expecting Army to come out because it's Army football. It's unique. It should be a good bowl game. Good time slot, 2:30 on a Saturday. This is not 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. This is a chance for UConn to get 10 wins. People notice. They've been talking UConn on game day. What did Nick Saban say? He was like, I don't understand why Mora's leaving UConn. Wins matter. I think there's a move. I think people recognize in the media now. I think they're seeing it is how UConn's been probably the biggest loser in realignment the last 20 years. And what people like more in college football, they love to push teams down, but then when that team comes back up and shows some program fight, like Indiana's showing right now, like people wanted to oh, it's the point of Indiana football. Well, we see now. I think people are going to start in this new era where NIL and portal and revenue distribution, is going to allow for more teams to break through. Why not UConn? If they get into a Power Four conference and are able to spend the money to acquire players, Now there's no reason not to at least be good. Now, getting through that college football playoff, I mean, come on. But if James Madison Tulane can make the college football playoff and Indiana can make the college football playoff now, UConn's beaten Indiana before, and they've played close games against Indiana recently. Okay, so this is not something that's wild. Look at how far they've come. It's because of NIL and it's because of coaching, all right, and it's because of the portal. And
Hmm.
because of that, I think there's more hope for UConn football to be good. Probably never be great. It's really tough in the Northeast because of that, because of weather, fan base, branding size. But I think they can be a good football team. It seems a lot more brighter than it did 4 or 5 years ago, didn't it? Amon, when people are saying, "Well, why do we even have a football team?"
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Going for the 10th win is huge. There are
Mm,
going to be opt-outs, right? There's a lot of guys in the portal already. I'm a little concerned about now more opt-outs.
yeah.
If you're a defensive lineman or a linebacker thinking about those cut blocking offensive linemen, maybe your ankle injury is already a little flared up. No, but seriously, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to have to play that if you don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
We're talking about a
Yeah.
cold day in Boston in a baseball stadium. These are not ideal
Mm,
football conditions, right? Compared to
no.
what the weather might be in Boca, right? In Boca, you can whip the ball around,
Oh,
right? You can play your
oh.
fun spread offense, and Skylar Bell can go for 200 yards if he plays.
Yeah.
If Joe
Yeah.
Fagnano plays, right? Those are separate
Yeah.
considerations. Of course, there's so much that is really good about this for UConn. As an independent, even being in a bowl is not a guarantee, right? Uh, there's totally a scenario down the road if UConn stays independent where UConn wins like 7 or 8 games and does not get into a
Yeah.
bowl because of how things shake out on the
Mm-hmm.
number of teams that are 6-6 and number of teams that accept bowls. This year, with Notre Dame and some others declining their bowl
Up to
invite,
now,
they actually
crazy.
were looking for teams, and they still are looking for
Uh,
teams. I think there's a chance UConn's bowl assignment changes, but there are
mm,
still, it seems like bowls looking for a spot. For the Pinstripe Bowl, I agree. Just for the sake of variety, it would have been different, right?
mm,
Still the cold, still the baseballs, still some of the things I'm saying, but at least you
mm.
get variety. At least you show up in New York. But the Pinstripe Bowl this year had the chance to put in Penn State. They got Penn State and they got Clemson on the other side, right? That's a
You
really
gotta go.
good
You gotta go with
matchup.
that game. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pinstripe Bowl doesn't
Yeah.
get
Got
that. They're
it.
probably not getting Clemson ever again, and Penn State is a very much local
Never again.
team for that area.
Yeah.
But again, so much good for UConn. This is a great bowl to
Mm,
be in. Like you said, show out in Boston. That's a good show of strength for the team. I'll be interested to see if UConn matches the 27K attendance from last year. There will be Army fans, so that will play a role. There should be more of the other team's
mm,
fans. But in terms of will there be more UConn fans, I think it's interesting. The novelty wears off, right? So there's a few people who are saying, all right, well, we just did this last year. So do we need to? And there's also the fact that this is a 2:15 game. I think that helps. But
mm.
still, it's cold in Boston during the holidays. I think that's going to be tough. Typically
Yeah.
when you have this scenario, there is not a increase. When a team goes to the same bowl 2 years in a row, they typically are not
Mm,
sending more people to it the next time. Like you said, there are probably financial considerations here, including the cost to make the trip, like literally to send football teams, staff, equipment all the way to Florida versus sending them all to Boston is probably considerably cheaper. And then maybe this might even pay out a little bit more. Like I said, for the
mm,
players, just if you're a player on this team, you've been part of the greatest 2 year stretch in UConn football history, and your reward has been 2 trips to Boston. Personally, I would not be the most thrilled about that. Just saying. Again,
mm.
it's all
Yeah.
very important, right? You're 21 years old. You don't really necessarily need to care about what this means for the program in that kind of deep way, right? You want to have fun. You want to have the beach
Yeah.
bash. You want to have the belly
Yeah.
flop contest. You want to be sitting in some warm weather. You're in Stores, Connecticut, buddy, right? Like let's show
Mm,
some empathy for what these people are up to. They wake up in the cold, 6 a.m. in the morning. It's windy as all hell outside. And they go to football practice. I wanted, for their sake, to play a game in Boca, to play a game somewhere warm. But look, there's going to be 15 practices. That's the hugest part, right? There's 15
yeah.
practices
Yeah.
that you don't get to hold if you're not in a bowl. UConn gets to develop its players. There's a new coach who's got to figure a bunch of stuff out. There's going to be opt outs. It's going to be a different kind of roster, I think. So that's what makes this whole chase for 10 thing. We're starting to lose a little juice on it, in my opinion. But
Mm.
yes, it's good for the program. It's good that it's happening to get the ACC spot to play a local bowl. There's only two of them to play a local bowl. It's all good things, but in a aspirational sense, I would have liked to see a little bit more or something a little bit different. Maybe just for the sake of variety. Maybe just for the sake of experience. Um, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with that, Aman. You'd like more variety, but you also can't deny the players the opportunity. Also, like I think we'll have opt outs. UConn's going to have some opt outs there. They'll. I'm just concerned, like really like Bell to play. I think Fagiano will play. I mean, why not? I mean, if he hasn't gotten hurt in 10 years of college football, he's going to get hurt his last game. I mean, um, so I mean, he could play. Bell, I could see Bell not wanting to play on that track because the last thing he needs is in his life is a sprained knee, or we're not even talking about a major injury, but just like getting hurt in a cold. But he's a football player. He likes playing football. That's why I think he did so well here. Why not go out and like, maybe he could become the, end the season as the number one catch guy, number one touchdown guy, number one yards guy. He's very close. That's why I'd sell him. I'd sell him on that. That looks good coming. I mean, you can't ever take that away from him. So I mean, you got to make sure his agents are always going to tell you to sit out. Agents, like if there's money that could be hurt, they always tell you to sit out. But you know, hopefully their offensive linemen play. That would be the big thing because they had a really good offensive line this year. Um, we'll see. Defense, I don't know, man. Like if I'm in the portal or I'm feeling a little creaky. I don't know if I want to play that Army team because if I'm a linebacker at UConn, you're gonna get hit a lot. So I can see that one, but you know there's a limited number of football games some of these players are going to have in their life. Like it's going to end, and I understand some want to go into the portal, but you also need to get tape in the portal. Like if you're portaling and you're a backup, and then one of your guys is opting out, I play that game. You need to get on some film. Look what when Bill Belichick stole Price Yates. Why did he steal him? You saw him at the Fenway Bowl. It's another chance at a G5 team. It's another chance to make your name. Coaches are watching you every game, and if you do something live in a game that a certain something, they're gonna grab you. Play the game. I think you should play the game. I have a big theory. We can get into it over the course of the next 20 years, but I think players should get paid for this game by the bowl, right? And then I
Yeah,
think you'd see less opt-outs. Like, hey, if every player
yeah,
at UConn got 10K to play this game,
they'll do it. Yeah,
100,000, 10K. I'm not.
absolutely,
I'll play the game for 10K. I'll play the game for
absolutely.
you'll play the K unless especially if you're like a Power Five kid or you're a backup, 10K for every player. Not bad. UConn sacrifices some bowl fee and it goes to their players. Not bad. We can do it now. I don't understand why bowls don't do it just yet. It doesn't have to all go to the
It's
school.
it's probably going to have to happen fairly soon
Yeah.
because of the concerns around opt-outs and such. But yes, to your point,
Yeah.
it's an
Well,
opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity for someone, right? Bell sits out. That's an opportunity for UConn's receivers to have a good
it's
day.
just Shamar Porter.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to get, right? It's anticipating opt-outs. Probably going to get a chance to see some UConn players you did not see a lot of throughout this season,
Yeah.
who may be
Fine.
asked to play starring roles next year. So
Mm.
that's been our discussion on the new football coach and UConn's bowl game. Thank you all for watching.